Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined by the one, the only, the man, BA, Brandon Anderson. This time a little different, live from the Dakotas during a blizzard. So if we lose Brandon at any point, I'm used to doing this solo. I did it in the past. I'm just going to keep rolling, and our producer's just going to let me know. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be a fun show. But for our NFL recap, we will discuss everything we saw today during Week 17. Plus, important, we will talk about Week 18 a bunch during this and the playoffs. So stay tuned. We will also do a little hot read for next week's games. This is going to be a real fun show. But before we get started, I will get to my stat of the day, which is basically one simple thing. Teams who needed to win facing eliminated teams, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Detroit, all lost outright versus eliminated teams this week. We have no such games in Week 18 because really there's only two and they face each other. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore, Carolina versus Tampa. And here's the other crazy one. So if Baltimore loses to Pittsburgh on that Sunday night game, we will have three teams who are inside the top five in preseason odds missing the playoffs. We will also have two, Baltimore and Kansas City, who had 11 win totals. It would be the first time since 2000 where two teams with 11 plus win totals don't make the playoffs. In 2000, it was Washington and Jacksonville, a very different time. But nonetheless, we're kind of on the cusp of chaos here. And also, there is a chance we only have one favorite who was a favorite to win their division actually come through, which would be Philly. That would be the fewest faves to win a division since 2008. So people have talked about chaos. Well, we are living in chaos right now. I mean, Brandon, take it away. What would you like to discuss before we dive into this?
Yeah, of course, the year where we get one division favorite winning the division, it's the NFC East champion that hasn't had a repeat winner for what, like 2.5 decades or something. So that's chaos. I believe in the AFC North, it's just Jacksonville winning would be the non-favorite there as opposed to Houston. And then Pittsburgh, of course, not Baltimore in the other one. And Tampa losing to Carolina, I'm sure would need to happen Seattle as well. So, yes, Seattle as well. So we've got some work to do, but we're kind of riding a high. Like, honestly, Christmas games, Saturday games, not as bad. Sunday slate, all kind of terrible if we're being totally honest. And we got to this incredible game tonight that just like the Dumb and Dumber and totally redeemed yourself. Like, I feel like that's kind of what the NFL just did tonight. It felt like a playoff game. Like, I had to keep reminding myself, no, the Bears aren't out. They're out of the 1 seed now, but they're not out. You know, this is not an elimination game. We get to see more of this, but it does seem, we expanded the schedule. We're on 17 games now. We got Week 18 coming. It does seem like this is the downside of the expanded schedule. We're going to get a lot more next week of what we saw this week, which is a lot of eliminated teams, a lot of now non-eliminated teams who are going to be resting. So be careful early in the week. If you see a line that looks really fishy, like something looks really off, there's a good chance that that looks off for a reason that maybe you don't know yet. And maybe we don't know yet, but sometimes the books know. Sometimes they have more information than us on like, oh, all right, well, it turns out the Eagles decided to rest their starters and treat Week 18 like a bye week. I don't know, but that's in play. And it's all about like, do you want to get ahead of it and guess the motivation and try to get some CLV? Like the Bills play the Jets next week. I think there's a chance the Bills could arrest, but I don't know if the Jets can win anyway. So like, I kind of want to do a Jets money line on the possibility of that, but you get all these wonky setups and lines sometimes in Week 18 in the final week, lines might move like a full touchdown when we start to get some of the names that come out that are missing. And we are set up to have a lot of those games this coming week. So that either means be aggressive if you want to take some chances or be very cautious and wait for news to come out. If a line looks wrong or that there's something you don't know, probably that's the case this week. There probably is something that we don't know. So it is crazy out here. We effectively have the playoff field set. Like we need to know who wins the two divisions that don't really matter. But even the seeding, we'll get to kind of a playoff reset later. But much of the seeding is mostly set now too, at least down to kind of a few multiple choices in a couple of spots. So Yeah, where we're here. Like, we're on the cusp of the playoffs now. I feel like this result now tonight kind of got us to the spot where we can really start to see, okay, all these favorites before the season are out or seemingly out now. We've got a new bracket. What happens now? We made it.
We did make it. And one thing I will add, so when you have those teams who will be sitting their players, you also will be most likely going against a team who technically wants to lose, which is kind of what you saw with the Raiders today, which this whole week 18 is chaos. But let's dive into the slate. So San Francisco wins 42-38. They cover every single number except, according to our Action Labs and Action Network, they did close -4.5 last seconds. So if you waited, you could have covered Chicago, but last seconds went to 4.5. Almost every other number, San Francisco does cover. The total obviously goes over 51.5. I really don't need to talk about that much, but I will say this. So game starts, Chicago pick 6, first 15 seconds into the game on a drop deflection. From there, it was just absolute chaos, kind of a similar situation to what we saw with San Francisco and Indy last week, except on the other side of San Francisco, there was a little more competency. Versus Phillip Rivers, now this side, Caleb Williams did his job almost the entire game. Just to recap kind of the over-under margin and what we did see here, since 2005, we've had 187 night games with a total of 50+. This was just the fourth to go over by 28+ points. It was just an absolute damn classic. I mean, we started with a 34-yard pick 6, a 35-yard touchdown to Burden, a 36-yard touchdown to Loveland. Like, we kept upping ourselves as the game continued. And then what a gorgeous drop step back, side step touchdown by Purdy over on the left side of the end zone to Juszczyk. We really got everything we could ask for at the end of this game. And we even got almost the Bears comeback on the goal line. It was just really the most amazing, like really maybe game of the year, other than everyone tends to forget Buffalo and Baltimore in week 1 was also absolute nuts and chaos. But what's your takeaway here? I mean, because for me, it's not much. Like, this is kind of how I felt about both these teams. The defenses were Zippo. They didn't really arrive, but kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome game. I think they said in the broadcast, this was the first NFL game in history that was tied 7-7, then 14-14, then 21-21, 28-28, 35-35. And then the Bears drive down. They finally get a stop. They drive down. They settle for a field goal. And I wrote in my notes, settle for the field goal feels like you just lost the game. Like, that's the sort of game this was, where it's like, oh, you just took the lead, I think, for maybe the first, or no, not the first time, because they had, of course, the pick 6. But it felt like, oh, you're up 3 with 5 minutes left. You lost. And then Jennings catches the long touchdown. And I turn to my sister and say, oh, I think the Niners just lost. They scored too fast. There's 2-minute warning and 3 timeouts left. And sure enough, the Bears get down on like the 12 and have 26 seconds left and still had multiple chances to get in as well. So it truly was last team to have the ball is going to have the chance. They said it on TV as well. Wouldn't you feel better to be the team with the ball down 4 in the spot than the defense on the field? And I think both teams would feel that way, which now going forward, that's who these teams are. And that's who these teams have been, is the Niners. We just watched twice in 6 days score anytime they feel like, on not great defenses, but very clearly Brock Purdy finally is healthy now. They're finally getting right. That offense can put up some big numbers on you. I will say, not just the pick 6 on that first play. Trent Williams gets hurt, I assume trying to chase down someone maybe. That's a huge loss if he's out at all. He missed this whole game, and it didn't really feel the loss against the Bears. But against Seattle next week, that would be a big one. So can they get him back that game? Does he miss it, but they could still get the 1 seed, and then he gets like 3 weeks off? That would be huge. Trent Williams still as awesome as any blocker. The splits with him on off the field are massive for them. So that's a huge one. But really, both of these teams are going to have to win this version of a game against real teams in the playoffs. And that's the problem. Fun for us as fans, fun for us as neutrals. But, I think the Bears have earned our trust enough now to say, okay, they can hang 38 on you. They might have hung 45. One more play. I could have sworn we get a defensive hold or something. When the quarterback holds the ball that long, I didn't see one, but I just assumed when you're scrambling as long as Caleb Williams did, we're going to get a penalty or some other second chance. Didn't happen. But we're going to have two teams here that are awesome, fun to watch, offenses that can score in anyone, even the top defenses like Seattle, I think. But can they make a stop? Can they actually put a game away? Will it ever feel safe? I don't think so. And so it makes them both in play, but it makes them both vulnerable. And for me, I was already a winner on Bears Island coming into the game. We'll get to Saturday in a while, but Bears clinched the division already with the Packers loss. So I looked in my Action Network app. Here are the first 4 bets I made this season. And I say this because I can't imagine how these couple days could have gone any better to line up for my bets. I made 2 Super Bowl bets back in February. The Niners at 20-1 and the Seahawks at 70-1. Those teams now play each other for the 1 seed. So I have a 1 seed ticket. And of course, the other one's not out either. And then Bears Division, plus 550, Bears Island, double down, plus 1,300. That cashes already. So Bears winning, but then losing tonight was kind of the ideal outcome for me. And of course, living in Chicagoland and all my Bears friends. And then between all that, Stafford 50-1, not ideal for that. I think the Rams, I believe, are locked out of the 1 seed now with this result, but looked unlikely anyways, still in play. Be nice if Drake made and throw 1,000 touchdowns on the Jets every day. We're not going to talk about that game much tonight, but yeah, a good setup for my futures tickets. Going forward, what's this mean for these teams? Very simple. Niners play for the 1 seed now. Niners, Seahawks. If they lose, I think they still drop to the 6 seed. And if they drop to the 6 seed, we might get this game again. Niners 6 seed, Bears 3 seed, because the Bears are the 2 seed if they either win or the Eagles lose. But if the Eagles win and the Bears lose, then the Bears can still drop to the 3 seed and possibly give us a 3-6 matchup with the 49ers. So as high as these teams both feel right now, there's a chance we might just get this matchup again, but in Chicago a couple weeks from now. And I can't say I would hate that. That would be a lot of fun to watch these teams play again. Caleb and Brock were balling tonight. Just incredible throws. Awesome to watch, and a really fun game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be how awesome it is to watch both those quarterbacks into the playoffs as well. I think the question mark on both sides will be the defense. Obviously, a lot of injuries on San Francisco's side that is impacting kind of how they're playing, especially Warner, et cetera, Bosa. So that is impacting how they're playing. You mentioned the MVP market. So Stafford about minus 250 with Drake May 2-1. Interesting enough. So the Rams can't win the division now. Obviously a wild card. Been a little bit since we've seen a wild card MVP winner, which I believe was Russ in 2017 and then AP before that. So it is a little rare, but right now we're on target. So we will see how that goes. Obviously 1 week left to go in the regular season, and you got the Rams playing tomorrow night on Monday Night Football. So an opportunity to show the nation a little bit there. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, we'll get to Monday Night Preview and picks in a while. Yep. So Stafford, one more chance to go do maybe what Drake May just did and play a beleaguered defense and hang a big crooked number on them. I kind of lean a different direction on that one. So there's a little teaser for a Monday Night Preview to come in a few minutes.
There you go. All right. Philly, Buffalo. It is a shocking thing to go from that game to this game, which is what we did. But Philly wins the game 13-12. Covers +3 on the road on the close, total under 45. Storyline's pretty simple and feels like it's the same every week. Another terrible Buffalo first half and another terrible Philly second half. I mean, Buffalo is now 4-12 first half ATS this year, tied with the Saints for the worst mark in the NFL. And to me, this is the worst one just based off of the market perception of Buffalo. Buffalo is now 3-11 first half ATS in games they were favored. That's the worst mark for any team since 2005. So we rarely see a team, with market perception like this, like Buffalo is because of Josh, and just coming out flat game after game. The other thing is Buffalo tends to come back. Buffalo is now 11-5, second half ATS, and they almost did the full thing. But again, if you watch the game, they went for 2 and didn't really get there. It was a short pass into the end zone, questionable whether you go for 2 there or not. I mean, it looked like McDermott the entire time was putting up the deuce sign. So that was the play they wanted to make. We know the math behind being that close to the end zone and the 2-point conversion. All sorts of things go involved in that. But to me, That's the storyline here. I mean, other than Hurts going 0 for 7 passing in the second half, second time this year with no second half completions and winning the game, it feels like we know what these two teams look like. Like Philly's offense rarely looks good unless they're playing like Washington or someone of that nature. And Buffalo's defense, especially the rush defense, have been historically bad and really didn't take advantage of it at all in this game from Philly's standpoint. But I guess I'll ask you, have you learned anything new about these two teams when they're about to embark on this playoff journey?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we have in any bad way. Like, I think what you just said encapsulates how I feel, which is I wasn't really high on either one of these teams. So maybe one of them could step forward and show me against the other team's good unit, can you do something about it? And then we didn't see that. Like, yeah, the Eagles finished with 190 yards in this game on a Bills defense that is not good. Like, it's just not good. It's not even average right now. Eagles had 11 first downs, 3.5 yards of play, 3.2 yards per rush, 82 rushing yards. This is a Buffalo Bills defense that the last 4 years of Eagles teams would have run 50 times for 250 yards. And they ran for 82 yards today. That is a giant red flag. Philadelphia made the red zone 2 times. They lost the time of possession by over 10 minutes to Buffalo. Again, another red flag. Philadelphia had a 30% success rate. 30%. That is 4th percentile. That is awful. And it's awful against a defense that is very beatable. Philadelphia in the second half, 18 plays, 16 yards. Under a yard per play for an entire half of football. And look, we've seen that, like you said, in other games this year, but in other games are at least up 21-0 or something, like the Dallas game, which they lost as well. Somehow they come away with the win. Obviously, the Bills get 2 touchdowns late, their only offense of the game scoring, but they ended up with 331 yards. They had other opportunities. They doubled up almost on first downs. The Bills had a better offensive game, especially considering the Eagles' defense is actually really good. So pretty good performance for Buffalo overall. But they made some mistakes, and of course, among them, you missed the extra point on the first touchdown, then you do go for 2. Look, questioning about why to go for 2. Honestly, Buffalo's path to winning the division and improving its seeding was pretty low. I think they just wanted the game to be over. I think they just wanted to go try to get the win. I know Philly's offense was doing nothing. And Josh is already hurt, playing through a foot injury. Go play for the win. If you get it, great. If not, they're kind of playing for nothing now next week in all likelihood, so they can probably let Josh rest, and a loss is not necessarily a terrible thing from that perspective. Allen, I thought, played kind of like old Josh Allen in this game. Not last year MVP, old before that, like the Superman trying to be MVP. He lost a fumble early, led to a short field touchdown. That matters when it's 13-12. Like, that's the only touchdown Philly came up with. He got stuffed on a 4th down, trying to get into the end zone, turnover and downs. He had multiple sacks in this game, 5 sacks. Very rare. Josh Allen does not take sacks. Sacks are a quarterback stat. Allen tried to do too much and kept plays alive. He sacked them out of field goal position on one time. Again, you lost by 1. And then, of course, the final play, he missed the 2-point conversion. That's a throw. His guy's open. He can make that throw. He's going to make that throw 9 times out of 10. He missed it. So, yeah, for Buffalo, too much Allen not being good enough and too many mistakes there. And then I think, too, you just really see not a lot of weapons for Buffalo. Brandon Cooks is the guy making the big receptions. Brandon Cooks, we love a Brandon, but you're out here making 50-yard catch. I'm like, I forgot you were even on the roster. This is your star receiver down the field. It's Cooks. I love Khalil Shakir, 6 for 35, but that's your security blanket. That's your check down guy. No Dalton Kincaid. They miss him. Tyrell Shavers, he's the second receiver. It's Cooks and Tyrell Shavers. There are not enough weapons out there. And when they couldn't run the ball, because Philadelphia's run defense is good, there just wasn't enough else there to give them optionality. So I mentioned the loss not being terrible for them. So here's the upside is maybe you rest, maybe Josh gets the day off, and that's a good thing. The downside is, assuming Denver and Jacksonville win next week, which they probably should, they're heavy favorites, Buffalo is almost definitely locked out of the 5 seed, which means 5 was what you wanted. 5 plays the AFC North. And I know Baltimore feels scary, but you want to play Baltimore, Pittsburgh. You just want that matchup going on the road. Instead, they probably can't get the 5 seed. They're likely going to end up the 6 seed in Jacksonville, which is a much, much harder game for Buffalo. And that, to me, that's the cost of this one, is you sacrificed losing the game, kind of going 50-50 on that 2-pointer, and you probably got yourself a much harder path now in the playoffs, where they were set up pretty well before. They do get some rest for Josh. Maybe that's enough to change things, but I don't know. I come away really on this game feeling worse about my life because it was not a fun afternoon of football, but feeling worse about both teams. Like, these are, you mentioned at the top, all the favorites are not in the playoffs anymore. They're out totally, except these 2 teams, really, right? Buffalo and Philly. These are the other 2 favorites that I feel like we're defaulting ourselves into. Like, well, Kansas City is out. Baltimore is maybe out. Detroit is out. Maybe it's Josh's year. Maybe it's just Philly again. I don't think so. Like, the default answer is not the right answer. These teams are not Super Bowl teams right now, and they played a not Super Bowl game today. Like, this was, in March Madness terms, this was like an 8-9 first round game where it's like, okay, that was fun, but one of you is going to have to play like a real team at some point. I don't see this going very well. I just don't see either of these teams built to win 4 games right now.
Yeah, but both of them will have to face a 1 seed with no experience. And I think that's what everyone kind of keeps falling back on, which is these 2 teams have been through the gauntlet. The other teams have not. The other quarterbacks have not. So I think that's where the playoff intrigue kind of comes, which is no matter what Buffalo puts out there. And I think that's another reason why resting Josh, first of all, not playing more time in the game, not going to overtime. And then right now you're laying 11.5 against the Jets next week. Like, I just don't necessarily think that is the correct move to put him out there with so much to go and so many road games to go, given what your path looks like. So I just don't think it really makes sense. So I would be kind of shocked for McDermott to put Josh out there for a bunch of drives and really try to win that game. And even if they sit Josh, I don't necessarily think the Jets could put together a win either way. That's why Week 18 is just such a cluster. The one thing with Philly, their offense is continually just gross, but it just doesn't matter. And that's what's really difficult. Like, when we see bad offenses, we say to each other, okay, it's the Achilles heel. It's the reason they lose games. This is their 3rd game this year with under 250 yards. They're 3-0 in those games. The rest of the NFL is 18-64. Like, for some reason, they just keep turning around and winning games they shouldn't in the oddest of ways. And yes, their defense continues to step up, but they just can't put together a full game. So, I mean, maybe we'll be sitting here in the Super Bowl and it'll be 13-0 Philadelphia at the half or something like that. And we're just going to have to accept that this is the year that Philly's having and no one else can beat them. But to me, I would still be shocked for that to happen. I just can't see this being sustained, but I guess we will see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing both you and I and any other analyst out there finds ourselves saying. It's the thing we've said for the last 2 months about the Chiefs. Different version of the thing where it's like, well, I don't know. All the underlying stuff is kind of still checking out. They still have Mahomes. They still have the thing. Maybe it'll just all click when, like, we do this with teams every year. There's a couple teams where it's like, well, maybe it'll all finally line up. And I just, there's no empirical reason to believe it's all going to line up. There's no like magical switch that the Super Bowl team is coming back. They can't run the ball. They're not blocking as well this year. They are going to hopefully get Lane Johnson back at some point. So that is a pretty dramatic swing for them, of course.
Agreed.
But it is a Super Bowl defense. Josh Allen, I believe, is a Super Bowl quarterback. So that in a year that's open where there's not a clear favorite, it's easy to talk ourselves into, okay, well, we've seen Philadelphia's spine. We know they have the stars offensively. We know that the defense. Buffalo, we know they have Josh Allen, the wide open AFC. It's easy version to sell ourselves on. The problem, from especially a future standpoint, is those things are being priced into the market. Like, these teams are being overpriced in the futures market. And so there's no world where I can be investing futures wise in either one of these teams, because we are paying for past results and I need future results, and I don't see it coming for these teams.
And speaking of next week, because I feel like it is important to look forward a little bit, Philly right now is laying 7.5 against Washington. Washington, no matter what the situation looks like a team under Dan Quinn that is fighting week to week. Like, there is no reason, even if it's Josh Johnson, not to think that Washington's not going to put McLaurin, Debo, like Chris Rodriguez will be back most likely. Like, they're all going to be out there fighting. So depending on what you think about Philadelphia, it's an intriguing thing to look at, because I don't even know if, Philadelphia at full strength, even though they did just blow them out a week or two ago, it was still relatively close at points. So I don't know, but it seems like a little bit of a heavy line. Maybe it should be under that mark, but we have to see who plays.
Agreed.
All right, let's keep going here. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So Cleveland wins the game 13-6, covers plus 3.5 on the close at home, total under 34.5. I will start off this with a quote from Myles Garrett in postgame, which is, to an extent, they were more worried about keeping me away from Aaron than getting the win. That's what came back to bite them. I mean, watching this entire game, it felt like Aaron Rodgers was playing two games. Game 1, not get sacked by Myles Garrett. Game 2, attempt to try to win the division. Like, there was so many times where he was making poor throws, bad passes, like all different types of, even like weird things in the pocket, which was throwing his motion off in an attempt to try to avoid Myles. Maybe I'm crazy, and I've heard other people out there basically disagree with my point. But in watching the game, it's kind of what I felt like most of the time. And Pittsburgh had a number of different opportunities. Shador threw I believe a pick or two that was pretty misguided that gave them some of those opportunities. It was a bad weather-ish game. There was some wind, but to me, this was an opportunity for Pittsburgh that I think they're going to regret. Now, right now, I believe they are +3 at home against Baltimore next week. +3 right now, total of 42.5. But to me, this game was all about no DK Metcalf. And next week, there is no DK Metcalf. Aaron Rodgers had 168 pass yards on 39 pass attempts. In Rodgers' entire career, he's had 83 starts with 39 pass attempts or more. This is his fewest passing yards in any of those games. 10+ yards downfield today, he was 3 of 15 passing. Like, no DK Metcalf completely changed the way they have offense. And it's not going to change next week against Baltimore. And that to me is the biggest storyline going into that game.
Yeah, just really a classic Steelers letdown spot. Like, we talk about how they clear 500 every year. Tomlin loses this exact game every year. Like, every single year they play some garbage team that has no business being in it. And we get end of the first quarter, Browns up 10-0. And it kind of felt like it was over already. Like, we already knew the Steelers are not going to be scoring a lot of points in this one. Somehow in the fourth quarter, we got 10 drives in the fourth quarter. We get a missed field goal by the Steelers. Then drives of 2 plays, 4-4, 3-3, 4-4. I don't know if you know this, but every drive is 3 plays unless you mess it up. So that's how that's going. Then we get 8 plays, turnover and downs, and then a 1-play kneel down. Of course, coming down to the stretch, and Rodgers had a shot and just couldn't find anyone in the end zone. Neither team hit 300 yards. Combined 7 of 30 on the 3rd and 4th downs for this game. 0 of 3 in the red zone combined. Just a terrible game. And yeah, I hadn't heard that quote. I literally have in my notes in bold, Rodgers played this entire game like his only goal was no Myles Garrett record. That's what I saw watching this game, and that's what the numbers look like. -9 completion over expected, -1/3 EPA per play. Like, his numbers, he got outplayed by Shedeur Sanders in this game. That's what happened in this game just now. Costly loss for them, obviously, because they got to go play Baltimore just to get in now. Darnell Washington also, broken arm. That's a huge dude, quite literally a big loss for them because, again, like you said, no DK Metcalf. So we're running out of options of who we're going to throw the ball to. And, we talked all year, you and I did, about who's the Sunday night game. This division was always one we had our eye on for it. And we're starting next weekend with Bucs-Panthers. We'll talk about them shortly. But then ending with this one, the question for me, and here's a little preview for you. We're going to come back to this one, Steelers-Ravens, in the hot read. So you can probably already guess which direction I'm going. The big question is this a Steelers-Ravens regular season game? Because it is. Or is this a playoff game? Because it kind of is that too. And Mike Tomlin has lost 5 straight playoff games, 6 actually, but 5 one and dones. and the defense has allowed 39 points a game in those games. Their last 4 losses by double digits, including the most recent one by 14 to Baltimore. So which game are we getting? Are we getting classic Tomlin Harbaugh? Maybe for the last time if it goes sideways for one of these guys. Or are we getting Tomlin playoff game? You got to make that decision because those are very different game results. And I am tenuously making my early decision when we get to the hot read at the end of this podcast tonight.
Yeah, loser leaves home, maybe for the coaches and the starting quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting if we'll see if Lamar plays. I believe they are gearing towards that or trying to tell us that is most likely in the cards this week. So
certainly with Baltimore favored by 3 on the road is certainly an indication that Lamar would be expected to play.
I think they're expecting it. And I think going back to just Pittsburgh and Cleveland for a second, Cleveland has also just been kind of a thorn in Pittsburgh's side, especially when it comes to these games where Pittsburgh has the better record or Pittsburgh's in Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland's now won 6 of 7 home games against the Steelers, 6 of their last 7. They've covered their last 4. And here's the one that actually blows me away. When Pittsburgh has a better record than Cleveland under Tomlin, they're 17-1 at home. They're 5-7 on the road. That basically tells you everything you need to know about the troubles they've had in Cleveland, and it was all over the board today. Their game plan was pretty much crap. Like their offense just didn't show up, and without TJ over the last 3 or 4 games, their defense has been pretty decent. It was the offense with Aaron that just didn't show up in this game, and they knew Metcalf wasn't going to be there most of the week, and the game plan just didn't look right. And we've said great things all season about Warren and Gainwell as a combo. They've done a pretty damn good job for Pittsburgh. It's been the pass game, and today I kind of have to put this one on Aaron. So that's what I take, and at least maybe it's a bounce back spot where he tries to have a better game against Baltimore, which can be beat downfield way more than Cleveland can, and has less of a pass rush, and might be an easier game for him. But either way, just a bad showing in my opinion.
Yeah, I was trying to find, I don't have the exact numbers on this, but Ben Solak over at ESPN had tweeted out, I believe with Myles Garrett, I believe Myles Garrett was chipped, meaning that they sent like an extra blocker to keep him off almost 50% of the time, which was like top 10 highest for a player in the season. And then when he wasn't chipped, they ran the play to the other side of the field like 2/3 or 3/4 of the time. So very clearly, Mr. Rogers got into the head of Arthur Smith and some of the play calling audibles. I don't know. But we're not this is not a fake narrative, that this was a game plan to not have Aaron Rodgers be the new Brett Favre. Brett Favre falling down into Michael Strahan is seared into all of our memories of that broken record. Aaron Rodgers was going to make sure this was not happening for him. And it really seemed like that affected the game plan today. You can't do that in a game. You got to win in a game against what's been a really, really good defense this year. So there are real numbers backing up the things we're talking about.
And there's a difference to me between Myles Garrett has been a game wrecker against Pittsburgh and ruined lots of their games. Let's try to game plan to avoid that from happening. And then everything we saw today, right? Because it just felt like everything was altered, even mid-play. Like that just shouldn't be the case. Like if pre-snap, you want to try to set up protection to give him, more issues getting to the quarterback, completely understood. But once you're near him or something is going, I'd rather you go down than make a mistake. And there was just some odd plays. So that's all I have here. I can't wait to watch this Pittsburgh and Baltimore game. It will be Sunday Night Football. It'll be the last game of the regular season. And to me, I think it kind of steps up in the circumstances of the game because of how poorly both of these teams have played at different points this year. Like there is a lot kind of historically on the line for both of these teams, both these quarterbacks, and both these coaches in this game, which it should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. We've talked about it for a long time, and it will be the game leading into our show next week, so we'll get to talk about it again then.
All right, let's keep rolling here. Seattle, Carolina. Seattle wins the game 27-10, covers the -6.5 on the road on close, total under 42.5. Oh boy, Bryce Young. So 14 of 24 for 54 yards. Yeah, that's 54. There's no 1 in front of that with an interception. That is the fewest yards by a quarterback with 24 plus pass attempts since David Woodley in 1980. And a home crowd hasn't seen that few pass yards with that many attempts since 1979. So this was a historic bad quarterback performance by Bryce. And you could see it in the entire box score. You could see it watching back tape. You could see it in his passing chart. I mean, he had 4 pass attempts, 7+ yards downfield. He went 0 for 4 with an interception. Cleveland's long reception of 8 yards, and not to take away anything from Chuba and Rico, but their long rush of 11 yards. I mean, this was the full gamut of everything that Seattle's defense can show you, and they brought it all in this game because Bryce looked absolutely distraught most of his game. It just running in circles, bad throws. I put obviously some of this on Canales, but I think this was more of just a Bryce Young issue.
Yeah, Young's numbers were ghastly in this game. 2.3 yards per attempt, awful. 1.6 average depth of target. That's telling you every time you threw, which was 24 times, your average throwing it 1 yard past the line of scrimmage. That's what that number is meaning. That is a 0th percentile outcome. That means that like out of 100 games you watch, this is the lowest that a quarterback bothered even to throw. Negative more than half an EPA per play. Just awful. Every number you can find. These are the sort of numbers you get from like when Max Brosmer starts as a 7th round rookie thrown into the fire. This is a number 1 pick. This is a dude that they're going to have to decide after one more game, are we picking up his contract extension? Are we going to extend him this summer? Like, this is embarrassing. And I know Seattle's defense is good. 54 yards is something else entirely. Like, again, 154, sure. Like, you can at least try to do something. Yeah, I don't know if Carolina can keep doing this. And yet, they might play a home game in the playoffs a week from now as well if they get the win. Carolina 1 of 11 on 3rd down, 2 of 5 on 4th down. I got to say, Seattle, I'm a little bit worried about as well. The defense, no. Defense was awesome. Held Carolina 139 yards, 10 first downs. All good for the defense. They're clearly a Super Bowl caliber defense. To me, Seattle, Houston, I don't know which one's 1 or 2, but those two have separated from the crowd. We've known that all year, but this was 3-3 halftime. Seattle did score 3 touchdowns, all 3 short field. 2 short fields in the 3rd quarter off of turnovers. Another 1 short field, 4th quarter off of a turnover and down. So you can't win this way against real playoff teams, which Carolina or Tampa Bay, whoever wins is not what I'm talking about there. So again, I come away a little bit worried about both teams. Like, I guess I'm not worried about Carolina because it's like the Mad Men. Like, I don't even think about Carolina. Like, I don't need to worry about Carolina. Seattle, though, is playing for the 1 seed next week, and you get Seattle's defense against San Fran offense is going to be glorious to watch. But then the other side, San Fran's defense just got lit up by Ben Johnson's offense and by Phillip Rivers, really, in the last week. What can Sam Darnold do? JSN's supposed to be the offensive player of the year. What can he do? He's kind of slowly been fading down. The run game is hit or miss for Seattle. Is their offense good enough? Because Carolina's not a great defense. Carolina's not even a good defense. And for Seattle to struggle this much in a game where they have to get the win, and I know 27-10 doesn't sound like a struggle, but this was not a comfortable game for Seattle. Their defense won the game for them, but their defense can't win 4 games for them. Can it win 3 with a bye week? Okay, well, the 4th is still San Fran next week. They still got to win the 4 to get there, and San Fran is just as tough a game as any playoff game. So I came away worried about Seattle going forward, and I came away almost wondering, we'll get to the Bucs game in a second, if I'm a fan of Bucs Panthers, like, this is probably unfair because I'm not a fan of these teams, but I almost wonder if whoever loses next week might be better off. Like, it might just be time for Bryce Young. It might be time to admit this is not happening for you and move on. And you can't do that if you win the division and make the playoff game. You have to do another Bryce year. If you get a game like this next week, you might have to move on. As for the Bucs, is it Todd Bowles? Is it like the whole Baker regime? This team they keep kind of going in on. Is it time to move on from that and just be like, okay, well, so we're winning this bad division, but what does that really mean? To me, one of these teams is going to host a home game in the playoffs and probably as an underdog and significant underdog in all likelihood, and probably get embarrassed, but they're going to still have to kind of run it back because they hosted a home playoff game and won the division. They hung the banner, And so I don't know. Do you want the temporary banner to hang, or do you want to admit reality? And the reality is Bryce Young sucked in this game and is not a franchise quarterback and does not look like he can be that guy. This is a playoff game, and he didn't show up for the game. And at some point, you have to accept reality with that.
And Carolina had been playing much better at home. Didn't really matter in this one. I mean, Seattle has been an absolute juggernaut on the road. They've won like 8 or 9 straight at the 1 o'clock window as well. Like they have just – Mike McDonald has put together a very, very solid team. I'm kind of surprised he's still the third option to win Coach of the Year. After tonight's game, Kyle Shanahan, now the favorite. In that window, which is kind of funny at plus 130 with Mike Vrabel at plus 140 and Mike McDonald at 5-1. I personally cannot believe Liam Cohen, the fourth option at 16-1, Ben Johnson at 20-1. Any other year, both of those guys probably win this award. Like there has been some unbelievable coaching jobs this year. And I think it probably goes back to no Kansas City, no Baltimore, like all these really good teams have been thrown out the window. So all these great coaching performances, but there's probably 5 winners there in most years. So you had mentioned it. Obviously, Carolina played well enough last week to get the win. Now this week, and complete dud. So the good thing for Carolina, I guess, going into next week is that they're off a loss. They're 7-0 against the spread off of a loss this year, covering by over 11 points per game. They are the most wins without a loss by any team in the NFL. When they're off a win, they're now 2-6 against the spread. So they've been kind of Jekyll and Hyde in that area, a little bit Falconsy is what I'll call it if you know a little bit of history there. And the thing with Seattle, which is interesting, I mean, their second halves since December 1st, last 4 games have been absurd. They've scored 100 total points in their last 4 games in the second half. 24 today. 31 last week. They scored 31 against Atlanta. They've been absolutely futile in the first half, 3 threes, etc., and then just lit them up in the second half. That is not something you want to be doing in the playoffs, getting behind in any of these types of games. So even though that is a nice statistic, it is something that does scare me.
Yeah, if you score 3 in the first half against San Francisco, you're not going to be the 1 seed at the end of that game. That's not how that's going to go.
All right, let's keep rolling here. Tampa Bay and Miami. So Miami wins the game 2017. They cover the plus 5.5 on close, total under 44. We had talked about the teams who needed to win to kind of progress versus eliminated, and this was one of the duds. But to me, Tampa Bay at least played a little bit better in this game. What really just killed them was the turnovers.
Yep.
They had 3. They didn't force any. But again, Baker had a pretty decent game. Like other than the 2 interceptions, which I think, one was a bit of a punt. Like there were mistakes, which in the end did cost Tampa. But I feel like if you're looking for anything, literally grasping at absolutely anything for a team who's 1-7 in their last 8 and who have failed to cover the spread in 8 straight games, you looked better this week. McMillan played well. Like there were positives. The one thing, they cannot run the ball. It's been absolutely terrible recently, especially Bucky. He hasn't averaged 4 yards per carry in any game since he came back from injury, 9 of 19 today. That's something that absolutely has to get better against a pretty stout front line for Carolina next week. And that's something I'm at least going to be looking at. But to me, best game from Baker probably in almost 2 months.
Yeah, still one awful interception, which is kind of like par for the course on a Baker game. But yeah, he put up the numbers. He's going to give you a chance in games. I'd certainly rather have Baker than Bryce Young going into essentially a playoff game next week.
Not sure how much that says.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I don't have too much more to add. I agree. I think the Bucs were basically the better team, but then 3 turnovers, and turnovers count. So you're not the better team when that happens. You lose the margin by 3. You're going to lose most of those games. Tampa Bay has now lost 4 games in a row. They've lost 7 of 8 games, and they are still home favorites by a field goal to host a home game in the playoffs. Like, congrats, I guess, on setting yourself up so well in the first half of the season. They had us in the first half, right? Now here they are, except they can still just totally redeem themselves, just smash all the memes together and still get the home playoff game. And look, if Carolina gets the home playoff game, we've seen Carolina have some wonky games, and the right matchup for them, we've talked about, that can be good for them. Baker gives you a shot at least. Like, at least if I have Baker, I believe going into a game. If I have Bryce, my belief is, well, maybe we can just run the ball, stop the run, and try to win like 17-14. With Baker, I can at least pretend we might put up 35 and like have a shot in a game if he just gets on a heater. So at least I'm appreciative of that. And it's probably going to be close. Bucks have now played 5 straight games at 4 points or less by the margin.
Wow.
Now 11 games this season under a touchdown. That's not just one score. That's under a touchdown. That is coming down to basically the final play. We saw that the whole first half of the season, and they were getting on the right side of those. Well, now they're on the wrong side of all of these, but they're still competitive in these games. To me, as a neutral, again, I'm not a fan of either of these teams. I would far rather see Tampa in a playoff game because of the Baker factor, because of the excitement, because of the upside. I think if you get Baker home against, it's going to be an NFC West team, Seattle, Rams, or Niners, I can at least talk myself into the Bucks and that game being interesting. I can't necessarily do that with Carolina. It depends on what you get with Carolina. The only other note, Emeka Egbuka, I think pretty clearly out of the Rookie of the Year race, at one point having been the clear front runner, 5 targets, 3 of 20 catches. He's the 4th receiver now. Like, it's not just that Evans is back and Godwin. Jalen McMillan, 7 for 114 this game. And he's good. He's a good receiver, and he was hurt also. So I think Egbuka, fine long-term, like dynasty, you're fine. You want him as well. But it seems like he's probably drawing dead. I just pulled up the odds. I'm surprised. Do you know who is the Rookie of the Year favorite right now at DraftKings?
I do not, because I looked at another book earlier and it was still Tet, but I would guess it's Tyler Shuck.
It is still Tet. I thought it would be Tyler Shuck by now, who I know missed the start of the season, but is on like a 4 or 5 game win streak now down the stretch. Quarterbacks win awards. That's surprising to me. We talk about Bryce Young throwing for 54 yards. Well, Ted McMillan's going to have a shot in a big marquee game on Saturday to put up a game against beatable corners against Egbuka. So maybe that's the shot for Rookie of the Year. But I don't know, man. How much target share do you need out of 54-yard passing games to be able to put up a Rookie of the Year performance? Shuck might just close out the year on a 6-game winning streak. That seems like the wrong favorite to me. But either way, it does not seem like Egbuka anymore at this point.
Yeah, next week, New Orleans in Atlanta right now, +2.5. And you just talked about what Carolina has on deck. The Shuck thing is crazy only because he opened the year 60-1, doesn't play, believe he gets up to like 200 or 300 to 1. And now basically on the doorstep of winning the award, kind of just says what the class looks like. The only thing I'll say about Tampa and Carolina opened about 3.5-point dogs. Well, you've lost the hook. Currently down to 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets closer to pick them, but maybe closes in that 1 to 2 range, because I just think everyone doesn't have faith in Tampa, and I kind of think Tampa's the play. So we will see how that goes. All right, we're going to go into the Saturday slate now. Do this relatively quickly, and then we're going to let Brandon reset the playoff picture kind of for the AFC and NFC. So Houston wins the game 20-16, covers +1.5 on close, total under 41. I mean, if you didn't watch this game, it's pretty simple. First Houston drive, third play, 75-yard touchdown pass from C.J. Stroud. Their second drive, fourth play, 43-yard touchdown pass from C.J. Stroud. After that, Houston scores 6 points total in 9 or 10 basically drives the rest of the game. They did basically nothing. Start the game with fireworks, and then the rest of the game was typical Houston. So I think going into the playoffs, and again, I don't know how much we actually learned this week since you and I have been dissecting this week after week after week. Seems like these teams, this is just what we got. And Houston's offense is hopefully we get a few plays, hopefully we score enough points, and hopefully our defense does exactly what they do every single week. And that's kind of what happened here against an offensive line that struggled most of the season since they've had injuries to Slater and Alt. And that's where we ended up. I will say this. Houston has played really, really well defensively lately and been listed as underdogs, maybe in a game or two. Like, I'm not sure they should have been dogs in this one, but they've now won 4 straight outright as dogs. They haven't won 4 straight as dogs since 2008, 2009, and this is the first time in franchise history they've done it in the same season. So what we're seeing from D'Amico and crew, super, super impressive. But what else did you take away here?
Yeah, CJ Stroud for 5 minutes in the game. It's like, okay, here we go. Houston, AFC favorite. And then the rest of the game, it's like, man, only 126 yards the whole rest of the game outside of those 2 huge throws. And I thought like 4 or 5 near interceptions, like actually has 2 interceptions, but several others where it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, is Minter's defense disguising coverages? Are they confusing you? It's like, it got to a point in the second half where it's, Houston, your defense is good enough. Just hand the ball off. I know you can't run anyways. Just stop letting CJ try to throw the game away. And it almost came down to that happening. But Chargers 2 of 5 in the red zone cost them. Houston, no red zone trips. Not great to not get in the red zone in a game. Obviously, Dicker, the kicker, misses the short field goal late, misses the extra point. You lose by 4. That's 4 points. So that's the difference there. Houston, I thought, slightly the better team. Both of these teams really, like this to me was the dress rehearsal for the Saturday early playoff game. Like this is a classic Texans, Chargers defense battle. Who can get a score here and there? It's kind of what this felt like. I don't know that we learned necessarily a ton. Houston, I need to see the injury report. Stingley left hurt. Kamari Lassiter left hurt. That's their 2 corners who maybe are the best corner combo in the league. Lassiter came back. Stingley's getting hurt like every month of his career, basically. Ed Ingram's been really good on the line for them. They were missing, I think, both tackles this game. Ingram's a guard. So who's going to play for them on the line? Both teams really could use some rest. So the Chargers, kind of like we said about the Bills earlier, maybe blessing in disguise for them to not win this game. They were kind of a long shot to move up anyways. Like, I don't think they're going to catch Denver in the division, and they're not going to really improve a lot in their positioning. I think the Chargers really should punt. Like, Denver's going to try to go get the 1 seed. Herbert has been banged up. Give him a week off. Try to get somebody out there who can block a little bit. Get your defense a little bit healthy. You know, you still have Herbert. You still have a team. And Herbert and this defense give you a shot against anyone. And with Houston, they're suddenly in pretty good shape. The Buffalo loss was really big for Houston. We talked about Buffalo losing pole position for the 5 seed while Houston took it. Houston with a win next week against, I believe, the Colts, correct? Yes. Houston with the win against Riley Leonard's Colts, by the way. If they get that, they're either the 5 seed and you play Pittsburgh or Baltimore, or if the Jaguars lose somehow, you're the 3 seed and you get the home division game. So I still have my eye on Houston. I need more offense. I need more consistency. I don't think we're going to get it because it's week 17 and this is who we've got now. But can we get a few big plays and then have the defense dominate? Let me ask you this, Evan. I understand AFC, NFC, different schedules, different, positions and everything. Team agnostic. Seattle's defense, Houston's defense. I don't necessarily know who's better, but which offense would you trust? Like if you could play a neutral 4 games to win a Super Bowl, forget the schedule, 4 games, forget home and away, you get one of their defenses. Do you trust the Houston offense or the Seattle offense if you need to make a 3-4 game run in the playoffs?
So I think I would trust Seattle's offense more just because I think I trust McDonald's play calling and the play calling of that offense more. Like I think they've better managed Darnold than D'Amico does managing Stroud. Because during this game, when you saw some of these throws, you could have kneeled a bunch of times and probably had a better outcome than some of those offensive drives later in the game. So as much as I love myself some Texans, I think overall their defense makes them maybe a top 2 team, 3 team in the AFC at the moment. I think I would probably trust Seattle because I probably prefer JSN over Nico. Cooper Kupp, not exactly lighting up the world and hasn't all year, but come playoff time in a game like that, I think he's a decent option out there. The other thing that's interesting is like Houston has a bunch of young guys, a bunch of flyers out there that could give some teams some trouble. And with, it's Schultz versus Barner, maybe Barner. So I think it kind of goes back and forth. And again, Houston's got Chubb and Marks. Seattle's got Walker and Charbonnet. So I think they're honestly a little similar, which would be a very interesting playoff game, but I'd probably lean Seattle.
To me, I think Seattle is the correct answer. I think the line's a little bit better. You're right to point out the coaching. Clint Kubiak's offense, certainly much more reliable play calling than in Houston. I think the weapons overall a little bit better, certainly better running backs in Seattle. I still think I might take Houston, and here's the reason. Wow. The defenses are so good that my biggest concern is don't lose me the game offense. Can you not lose me the game? And I think I trust CJ Stroud and Houston's offense to not lose the game. Do I trust Sam Darnold to not lose the game 4 times in a row? Look, I'm wearing my Vikings ugly sweater, so maybe it's scar tissue from Sam Darnold, but I think we have to fear Sam Darnold losing you the game. I don't know if CJ Stroud can win me games more than Sam Darnold. I don't know how much better JSN is than Nico. I think it's probably pretty close, to be honest. I can make cases either direction, but I think the defenses are so good. I'd rather have Houston's offense because I trust CJ to not blow it, even though he almost did a couple times in this game, where I still feel like we all fear the other shoe dropping with Sam at some point. We fear the pumpkin coming. I think with CJ, we're still waiting for, how hard would it be to wake up on February 1st and we're like, man, can you believe it? CJ Stroud put it all together the month of January. Like, that is a totally plausible thing. I can sell myself that story. It's a lot harder for me to sell myself the Sam Darnold story at this point of his career. CJ maybe is just finally taking that next step, or maybe it's Trevor Lawrence. It's one of the Drake May, who's already there, but in the playoffs. One of these young guys, we've seen that. We know that version of NFL. We don't see the Sam Darnold version that much. And I think with the defense this good, I'd rather sacrifice a little ceiling, but take the floor. And so I still remain pretty high on Houston. I think, to me, that's the Saturday takeaway, is Houston's path got even better, and their path forward in the futures market, getting that 5 seed, even if it's just that, still on the road. But I really think this team can make some noise and win multiple games. And I will not be at all shocked if they are sitting in the Super Bowl and they get to February 1.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if there was a Super Bowl, it'd close at like 37.5. It'd be lowest total we've ever seen. All right, let's keep rolling here. Baltimore and Green Bay was the other game on Saturday. Baltimore wins 41-24, covers plus 2.5 on close, total over 37.5. This was the King Henry game. And it's nice to know they made the mistake, right? Because that's exactly what you saw from Harbaugh. Harbaugh was like, I screwed up. So today we ain't going to screw up. And that's what you saw. He had 36 carries, 216 yards, and 4 touchdowns on the ground. He became the 3rd player with those stats in a game since 1970. Mike Anderson, 2000. Corey Dillon, 1997. So it had been 25 years since we saw a running back put up that many carries, that many yards, and 4 touchdowns. Just a ridiculous, ridiculous performance all around. And he's the reason they won, because Malik Willis played great, and he was an absolute goddamn hero out there. And I'll give you these, because obviously in a short play span, I believe he has 160 total plays last 3 seasons, but he's been unbelievably efficient. EPA plus CPOE, he is the leader in the NFL with 100 plus plays the last 3 seasons. He's second in adjusted EPA per play. This season, he has a 13 plus CPOE, which is absolutely nuts. Now, to be fair, Jordan Love is 5th in adjusted EPA per play. Hasn't been bad either. But what we've seen out of Malik Willis, and it's probably the mixture of LaFleur and Willis, like the offense is very well set up for him to have these type of stats and be this efficient, especially him on the ground. He's picking up first downs. He's doing all the necessary things to move the chains. But any other opponent, I think, in this spot, and Green Bay is probably way more in this game later in the game. But that's what I took away. I think it was exactly what Baltimore should have been for weeks, and probably would have given them a few more wins and they wouldn't even be in this spot. But maybe they learned their lesson just at the right time, heading into a Pittsburgh rush defense that can be beat.
Yeah, I mean, look, Green Bay averaged over 8 yards a play for the entire game in this one. Yeah. So the offense is not to blame here. You do that without Jordan Love. You've done your job, Matt LaFleur and Malik Willis. The defense just can't stop anything right now. Like, this is who Baltimore is supposed to be. 40 minutes of possession, 30 first downs, just run the entire game. 53 runs for Baltimore, 307 yards, 300 rushing yards for the Ravens, 5.8 yards a carry. Packers defense is just embarrassing at this point. And obviously no Micah Parsons, but you can't win games this way. You certainly cannot win 4 in the playoffs. This is a 3rd straight 7 seed for Matt LaFleur. I've seen some speculation out there of like, man, good thing for Matt LaFleur that they expanded the playoffs to 7, because this would look a lot different at 6. I think that's a fair point. So Green Bay now 0-3 this season when they did not punt the ball, which was the case in this game. Everyone else in the NFL 8-0, Packers 0-3. So yeah, the offense, incredible work by Willis and LaFleur. I think there's a pretty good chance Malik Willis will get a chance to start somewhere next year, at least compete for a job, not in Green Bay. No, he is not better than Jordan Love. Don't be ridiculous. Yes, he may deserve a shot now. Packers, again, locked into the 7th seed. They've already talked about they're going to rest guys next week. Jordan Love won't play. They need the rest. They've had so many injuries on that team, on the offensive line. The receivers are banged up. The defense needs some guys that can find any solution. Green Bay is still dangerous. Like, this is the Chargers in the NFC. This is a team that has a lot of injuries, but you still have coaching. You still have Jordan Love. You can still go win a game. I don't know that I can pick them to win 4, but I certainly can pick them to get a big upset and to ruin someone else's playoff run. And look, the most likely outcome right now, Packers sitting in the 7, they're locked in. Who's the most likely 2 seed? Look at that. It's the Chicago Bears, and we might get that Bears-Packers game one more time in the playoffs. I'll tell you, Bears fans, they want no part of that one. Like, I know we just watched tonight, Bears-Niners. Bears fans don't want the Packers in the playoffs. Or I don't know, maybe they do. Everyone wants to win that game, but nobody wants to be on the hook for the loss there. So that one looks very enticing for sure.
All right. I mean, to me, just keep going here. We're going to do a playoff picture reset, but you might as well keep rolling here. So why don't you start with the AFC and kind of go from there, and I can give you a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the NFC since we just kind of did that with the Bears. So yeah, Green Bay locked in as the 7. 4 seed goes Tampa or Carolina. We've known that for like 3 months already. The 1 seed now is Saturday night, Seattle, San Fran. That one is scheduled. That is for the 1 seed. 2 seed and 3 is Chicago, Philly in that order, unless the Bears lose and the Eagles win. I don't expect that to happen, though I will have my eye on Detroit. I'm not so sure Detroit is a roll over and play dead team. That to me screams Dan Campbell culture setting, go ruin the Bears season. And I don't know how much you ruin it dropping from 2 to 3 seed, but that to me seems like a Detroit spot. So most likely Seattle, San Fran as the 1 and the bye week, Chicago 2, Philly 3, somebody terrible in the NFC South at 4, and then probably the Rams at 5. If the Rams win Monday night, which we'll get to in a second, they're pretty close to lock at 5. And that means that the Seattle San Fran loser drops from 1 all the way to 6 and maybe goes to Philadelphia, and then Packers at the 2 seed. So that's NFC. The AFC is pretty close to set, I think, partly because the teams that need to win should win next week. So in all likelihood, 1, 2, 3 goes Denver, New England, Jacksonville. All those teams need to win to get those, but they're all simultaneous. I think they all win. 4 seed, Pittsburgh or Baltimore. That's the finale we've talked about. And then 5, 6, 7 is some combo of Houston, Buffalo, Chargers. I believe that's the most likely outcome. We talked about that. Houston with the win locks at least the 5 seed. I think the Chargers most likely lose. Chargers with a loss lock the 7 seed. Not the worst spot for them because you might get to play New England and Denver, and we've talked about the opening there. Buffalo 6, Jacksonville 3 is the most likely outcome right now. That is your crown jewel in the AFC. Like, to me, that's the game that we say, okay, I don't know who wins this one necessarily, but whoever you like, is that your AFC pick as well? Like, is whoever comes out of that one, do they become the hot team that everyone wants to take a look at in the AFC? So picture is starting to become pretty clear. We still have a few big spots to determine. Obviously, NFC 1 seed is the big one. And we'll get to a couple of those AFC big favorites when I get to the hot read in a minute as well.
The only question I have is, shouldn't the Lions, I mean, understanding culture and everything, shouldn't they want to lose that game? You'd want to finish last in their division, given their schedule next year. And I believe if they finished with the same record as Minnesota, they would finish 4th since they lost both games. So, if you assume Minnesota wins the game next week against Green Bay, who's sitting everybody, they're like a 6.5 point favorite.
Right.
Then I guess the Detroit game just doesn't matter at all, because you're finishing 4th no matter what. So maybe that's why you would try to ruin Chicago, basically pulling them down. But that 4 over 3 is big.
It is big, but it's also 3 games on the schedule, which is not nothing. Like, 3 games can swing the whole season. 3 games could have swung the Lions season this year. To me, just everything of who the Lions are, Dan Campbell is not looking at that and being like, boy, you know what I'd love? I'd love to be the 4 seed in our division and get that better playoff for your schedule for next year. Like,
I get it.
Dan Campbell just wants to go and be like, no, screw that. We want to finish over 500. we got crushed by injuries this year. Let's end the year on the right note. Let's go out swinging. Like, that is so Detroit culture to me. So we'll see. I'm not there yet, but best bets episode, don't be surprised if we get a Lions money line in there. That just seems like a Dan Campbell sort of play. I guarantee you Lions fans would like to lose that game. But like you said, Minnesota's favored, and Minnesota's the tiebreak right now. If the Vikings win, the Lions can win, finish 9-8, and still be last in division, have their cake and eat it too. So to me, that would be the likely play. I think that is in play for the Lions, but it's their last chance because they're out. Like, the Lions don't get to be in our playoff picture anymore. I think I saw only the 5th time ever that both one seeds the previous year missed the following playoffs. So that's the sort of year that it has been in the NFL.
And you're going to assume Chicago plays everyone, right? Like, they are pushing to win that game, right? There's no reason
I would
to think
imagine.
otherwise.
I don't know why you wouldn't go try to get the 2 seed. There's a chance if the Eagles don't play well and are like down a lot at halftime, if the Eagles locks Chicago anyway. So maybe they that week 18, you never know who's going to pull shenanigans like that. I would assume Chicago tries to get the 2 seed because Chicago 2 seed means hosting the Eagles. We saw Bears Eagles. I think that was the Black Friday game. You want to host that game. If you win the first one, you get the second one. So you certainly want to be the 2, not the 3, even if it means having to face your hated Packers rivals.
And just for an FYI, right now the Bears are 2-point home favorites against Detroit, which tells me they think Detroit's going to play people. Or that spread would be a lot higher. All right, Let's keep rolling here. You good to keep going?
Yeah, let's move.
All right, just the scores now. I'm going to roll through a few of these. So Arizona, Cincinnati. Cincinnati wins 37-14. They cover -7 on close at home. Total under 53.5. Jamar Chase said he would get a touchdown this week, and he got 2, and he got the first. So we should have listened to him, and hopefully you did. And from Arizona's side, the slide continued. Arizona now 1-13 in their last 14 games. They've lost 8 straight. Their only win in that span, of course, on the road in Dallas, which says everything you need to know about what the Cowboys season has looked like. All right, keep rolling. Jaguars, Colts. Jaguars win the game 23-17. They cover -4.5 on close on the road. They even covered the 5.5 that was sitting there most of the week. Total under 48.5. The Jaguars continue to be a ridiculous thorn in Indy's side. Since 2015, Indy is 3-18-1 against the spread versus the Jaguars. In that span, none of the 10 Colts quarterbacks are above 500 ATS versus the Jaguars, and Mr. Rivers himself is 0-3 ATS versus Jacksonville in that span. The Jaguars, 11-5 against the spread through 16 games, tied for their best ATS start in franchise history. And the Colts started 8-2, now missing the playoffs. First team to do that since the 1995 Raiders. Just an awful collapse from Steichen and crew, especially after giving up those assets for Sauce, and just an unfortunate end to the season for the Colts. All right, New England and the Jets. New England wins the game 42-10, covers -13 on the road, total over 42.5. Patriots continue their domination with or without Brady of the Jets. They are 18-2 in their last 20, 26-4 in their last 30 since the 2011 season. They are also 8-2 ATS and 12-4 ATS in their last 10 and 16. They just, no matter the circumstance, no matter the quarterback, it don't matter. Jets have struggled versus New England all the time. And then you look at Drake May, who is now 3-0 straight up in ATS versus the Jets as well, scoring 25+ in all 3 games. It's like Brady never left. All right, New Orleans and Tennessee. New Orleans wins the game 34-26, covers -1.5 on the road, total over 38.5. The Saints continue to be streaking. They've won 4 straight outright, and they've covered 5 in a row. And leading to our conversation from before, Tyler Shuck now basically even for Offensive Rookie of the Year after being 200, 300 to 1 midseason and 60 to 1 entering the year. So a huge up-and-comer there. And Tennessee, man, they need to end this at some point. They've lost 12 consecutive games, both straight up and against the spread after a straight-up win. That is the longest active streak in the NFL. New Orleans, though, this one kind of surprised me. They are 12-4. Second half ATS. That is the best record in the NFL. And a lot of that have come during that streak and with Shuck at quarterback. So seems like they found their QB going forward. And finally, and of course you'd put this last, Giants win the game 34-10 over the Raiders, cover -3 on the road, total over 40.5. This was the first matchup in Super Bowl history of teams on both 9+ game losing streaks. The interesting thing with the Giants, now 7-2 to the over in their last 9 starts with Jackson Dart, so you've seen some points. They're also 9-4 to the over with Dart and Jameis, and they were 1-2 with Russ. And the Raiders, this one kills me. Since they moved to Vegas, last 14 home games, they are 2-12. Need to find some new stuff going on there with the Raiders. Now, before we get to Monday Night Football, if you'd like to tail some of the bets we're about to discuss, find the quick slip link in the podcast and video description or visit actionnetwork.com/bet now. You can also look in the live YouTube chat if you're still hanging out with us, or even better, sign up for Action Pro. Action Pro users get real-time alerts as soon as experts like Stuckey, Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon all track their picks in the app. You'll get real money percentages. You'll see where the smart money's flowing, access to our player prop projections, powered by Sean Kerner, including live player props as well, which is a very cool feature. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro to get started and use promo code POD20, POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription. Great around the holidays. That's promo code POD20 for $20 off and actionnetwork.com/pro. All right. Rams at Falcons, which I think my favorite storyline right now is the fact that the Falcons can actually tie for first place in the division by the end of this season if they get a few more wins, which is just so Falcons to do. Right now, the line sits at about Rams -7.5 with a total of 49.5. I will give it to you. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, actually, if the Falcons were to win their final 2 games, then that would clinch the division for the Panthers. That's part of why the Bucs and Panthers game opens our play on Saturday. They need to have that game happen before the Falcons game. Otherwise, Atlanta might have accidentally determined the winner of the division just because of all the wonky tiebreaker stuff. Kind of a fun game, honestly. I think we're going to get some points in this one. We get Kirk Cousins on a Monday night. We know about that style. Although I admit, 4-11 ATS now, not exactly good, but has covered 4 of the last 6 Kirk Cousins and won 5 of those 6. I think the Falcons are going to move the ball and score some. Their offense has been pretty good with Kirk, top 10 by DVOA. The run offense has been especially good. The Rams have been good against the run. They have faced this year 3 top 10 rushing offenses by DVOA, 19 points a game allowed, 3-0, average running back 22 for 95. That's fine. They're going to take that. If they do that, they will win this game. Rams have also been really good against tight ends and running back receptions. That sets up well against Atlanta as well. I think the defense holds up at least enough. On the flip side, Atlanta's been really good against tight ends. We've talked a lot about that 13 personnel, all those Rams tight ends, no Devontae Adams. So Puka Nacua, 573 yards the last 3 games, at least 167 in all 3. His line in this game is 107.5 receiving yards. That's just the standard over-under, second highest in like the last decade behind Cooper Kupp, who, by the way, is the exact same guy in this offense for Stafford in 2022. If you want Puka 150 yards plus 350, can't hate that. He's hit it 3 weeks in a row. I think the real edge in this game is not the Rams passing attack. It's their rushing attack. I think they are going to run the ball. They're the number 1 rushing offense, DVOA and success rate. Atlanta, bottom 10 against the run by pretty much any stat you want to pull, EPA, success, DVOA, any of those things. So Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, I think, is going to be a 2-headed monster in this game. I looked at Kyren rushing yard over 62.5. That's hit 80% this year, 70 plus in 7 of 8. I think I agree with Crazy Shorts in the comments. I want touchdowns from these running backs, and I want both of them. Kyren Williams, -110, touchdown in 7 of the last 8. You're giving me that at even money? Yes, please. And Blake Corum has scored a touchdown in 4 straight. He's plus 155 at DraftKings. 2 touchdowns for Corum, 14-1. Just a little nibble on that. And then kind of a fun one, I think. Both guys to get a touchdown. Play it together because you're going to get a little negative correlation boost. You're getting a 4-1 at DraftKings. Both those guys have scored a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. There's no Devontae Adams. That means more touchdowns to go around for not Devontae Adams out there. So I just think running back touchdowns in a game where the Rams are going to score a bunch of touchdowns, seems like the way to go. If you want a side, I would certainly go Rams or nothing. I make it Rams 9.5. So at 7, I don't mind the play. I do wonder if they come out maybe a little bit slow. You just lost your shot at the 1 seed. It's kind of a bummer of a start. Can you wait and play live below the 7? Can you maybe play just a second half line? The Rams are 10-5 ATS second half. I'd rather do that, but I don't mind a Rams angle as well. I think the Rams get home, get probably the 5 seed if they lock this one up, and then probably maybe rest next week. Wouldn't be surprising to me, but I think they get the job done here. Let's get some running back touchdowns. Kyren, Corum, hopefully both.
Yeah, my only scared point on the running backs of the Rams is like, are they going to try to give Stafford some stats? Like, does that matter to them? Like, they know he's on the verge of the MVP. It feels like a very stupid thing to consider. But at this point in the season, like, the Rams should win this game, and that feels like something they might attack at this point, even without Devontae in the red zone. So that would be my only thought process there.
Sure.
I do see Kyren at plus money in the market, so I think that definitely has some value to it. Blake Corum is just a little short. Like, usually we've seen him at higher odds to score touchdowns, but because he's been so efficient in that market recently, that number has really come down. So anything at plus money, I'm all over Kyren. I completely get it. Like, usually in that goal line slot, they're not going to sneak it with Stafford, and it's usually Kyren who gets the carries. So I completely think that is a good angle. My bets for this game, let me give you 2 trends that I thought are kind of interesting. So McVay is 32-19 against the spread off of a loss. It's the best record for any coach since McVay entered the league in 2017. Usually pretty good. Also, usually not laying 7 on the road. So a bit of a different spot there. And then I kind of have to get this out of the way because the stigma of Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football, yes, he did start 0-9 straight up and against the spread, but that has really changed. He's won 5 of his last 6 starts on Monday Night Football. And with the Falcons, he's 2-0. So this is not the old Kirk, at least in terms of that trend that kind of made its way around everywhere. He's been pretty decent lately. My 2 angles on this game is I like Algier to score a touchdown. Usually when they get into the red zone, I can understand that Bijan gets a lot of the receiving work and gets a lot of the long carries. But I think Algier at over 2-1, I can see some work there when they get into the red zone. And then I also kind of have a feeling they're going to stall a little bit with this Rams defense. So I looked at Zane. I really like the over 6.5 kick points. But if that's going to hit, you're most likely also going to hit the over 1.5 field goals, or the Falcons are going to need a lot of touchdowns in this game. So I like the Algier touchdown, and I like the Zane Gonzalez work here. So we will see how that goes. But any thoughts on either of those?
Yeah, I like the Algier look as well. I think we're going to get plenty of scoring both ways. I do think the back door could be open for Atlanta, which is why I would look to try to get something below the key number if you can. But that could be help the Algier and Zane Gonzalez bets as well.
All right. If you want to tail some of these Monday Night Football bets, make sure to look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionhour.com/bet now. Our producer, David, has already listed all the bets there for you. Simply click and throw it into your sports book. All right, Brandon, we've teased them long enough. What are you looking for your hot reads for week 18, last week of the regular season?
I can tell you what I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for a Cardinals over anymore. We have been hooked on Cardinals over by the half point twice in a row. Oof. Even though we got the hot read, we got the CLV by a couple points, and we get hooked anyways. We are 17-15 on the season. We're not finishing 500. I'm not giving you 2 picks. I need 3 picks. We're going to risk it for the biscuit. Here's the first one. I'm getting crazy with this one a little bit. Kind of teased this earlier. I'm going to give you a 4-team money line parlay at plus 108. It's the AFC favorites parlay. We talked about those teams that need to win and get into the playoffs. Not ATS, just the money line. Denver to get the 1 seed, New England 2 seed, Jacksonville 3, Houston 5. All 4 of those money line parlay. The case really is, I don't need to tell you why they're going to win their games. Let me tell you why they need to win on the playoff schedule. Denver clinches the 1 seed with the win at home against the Chargers. Chargers are mostly locked into the 7 anyways. I think they rest. So that's Denver. New England clinches the 2 seed with the home win against Miami. They might still get the 1 seed. Not in this scenario because Denver had to lose for that to happen, but those games are simultaneous. So New England has to go get the win as well. Ditto Jacksonville. They clinch division and a home game with the home win against the Titans. A loss drops them to the 6 or even 7 seed potentially. Not something they want to mess with. I think they get the job done. And then Houston home against Riley Leonard's Colts, no longer Phillip Rivers. That gets them either the 5 seed, which is the path we talked about, or the 3 seed and a home game. Those are all 4 teams, better teams at home, playing against teams where it's mostly a meaningless game. Like you said, teams that really ought to want to lose for the most part. I'll take all 4 together at plus 108. That is in the market at just barely above even odds. And if you want to get a little crazy, if all those things happen, the 4 seed game, irrelevant. That's locked away. There's only one other playoff team. We talked about it a little bit. If those all happen, the Texans lock into the 5, the top seeds lock, the Chargers lock into the 7, the Bills game becomes irrelevant. So take those 4 money line, add a Jets money line, just in case the Bills totally blow that one. Jets are at plus 470. Add them into the parlay, plus 1038. So you get like a 10-1, just a nibble, like a tenth of a unit on there, just in case. I don't mind looking at some of these, like the Cardinals against the Rams. What if the Rams just don't try? Like, we're gonna get some games where the teams just call off the dogs midway. You always get some weird outcome in Week 18. So put a little bit on the Jets being the weird outcome. Hopefully, no weird outcomes for Broncos, Patriots, Jaguars, Texans. That 4 is our main parlay at plus 108.
I like it. I mean, I was trying to punch a hole in one of these games where I maybe would see an issue, or maybe like the one that stood out the most from the others. Maybe it's the Broncos. Like, maybe Harbaugh pulls some BS and is able to stay in that game and give Denver trouble, since Denver only plays close games, it seems like. But I feel like at anything over even seems like a good play.
Yeah, to me, I try to do the same thing because, look, 4-team money line parlay, banking on the sure thing at even odds, not a good way to build your house with a betting line. But to me, New England, Miami is the one that I was like, well, I don't know. But if it was in Miami, I'd be a lot more hesitant. New England cannot win games in Miami. It's just like a given trend year after year. They're all home games too. And it's really hard to see. Miami's pass defense is so bad. So that's up perfectly for New England. Jacksonville against Tennessee. Jacksonville shut out Tennessee the last time they played. How is Tennessee going to score in that game? Houston's defensive line against Riley Leonard making his first start. Like, I can make the case for why these games seem so gettable. So I probably will do that in the pick 6 when we get to that in a few days and on our best bets. Second pick and third pick come from the same game. You already know Steelers, Ravens, and you know how we're doing it. Play the hits, unders and underdogs in Tomlin versus Harbaugh. So under. There's still a 43.5 out there, 42.5 at most books. This only goes that direction. Last 3 matchups, 42 or above, but last 11 matchups, 34.5 points a game in this matchup. These are low-scoring, grimy, ugly games. It's Sunday night. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wintry. Both defenses are trending up. Both offenses are unreliable, especially Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense, importantly, top 5 by DVOA at home, bottom 5 on the road. Huge delta. It matters a lot to me that this is in Pittsburgh. Give me the under. I think we get a blustery, classic Steelers-Ravens sort of outcome. And then Steelers, there's one plus 3.5 still in the market. Hopefully you can grab it. Otherwise, I don't mind the 3. You want to get the key number. I think it finishes below the key. In this rivalry, you always take the underdog, especially if it's 3 or above. 10 of the last 12 meetings, 1-score games. Pittsburgh actually won 9 of the 12. And this is a classic rah-rah underdog Mike Tomlin spot. You love all those trends. 68% week 5 and forward as underdog. Trend better as a home team, check. In the division, check. After a loss, check. Underdog of 7 or less, check. All the things I want in a Tomlin underdog spot. This is it. Home underdog under 7 or equal to 7, 19, 6-1, 76% ATS, 74% as a division underdog. And then maybe my favorite trend as a bettor, you just take the underdog in Tomlin versus Harbaugh, 25, 7, and 3 ATS, 78%, including if the underdog is 3 or more points as an underdog, nearly invincible. 23 and 3 ATS for the dog, 87% hit rate. That is an unreal trend for over a decade of matchups. And again, this might be our last shot to bet this trend if things go sideways for one of these coaches here. Even taking the coaches out of it, if the North underdogs week 14 forward 60%, that's just been a good spot to play. And team agnostic. Teams like Baltimore coming off a win by 17 or more as underdogs of 7 or less, 36% ATS in the next game since 2010. So a sell high spot on Baltimore. I know they just looked good. They haven't looked good for 3 months before that. I know how bad Pittsburgh looked. That's when you have to bet Pittsburgh. I know Lamar is rested. I don't have an answer to that, but he hasn't been healthy for the entire season anyways. Pittsburgh plus 3.5 while it's there. 3 if it's all you can get. This should be below the key. I basically make this a coin flip. This is all the makings to me of a low-scoring, ugly kick at the buzzer into the playoffs. That's what we're getting here. I have to play all the trends at home. Pittsburgh underdog, Tomlin spot. Rah. Give me the Steelers. Give me the under. It's the right way to end the hot read for the year. We live by the trends. We die by the trends.
Yeah, and I guess at this point, without DK, good for the under and just hope that Pittsburgh figures out a way to kind of move their offense forward. But yeah, without DK, 43.5 feels a tad high. All right, that'll do it here on the Action Network podcast for our NFL Week 17 recap episode presented by DraftKings. Give us a like on the YouTube vid before you take off. We always appreciate it. If you haven't yet, check out our new AI quick slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook, add Playbook, tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for, like Steelers, maybe the under, and it'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. We will be back for Action Island before Monday night's game between the Rams and Falcons right here on Action Network's YouTube page, as well as more best bets from BA, the six-pack from Ray-Ban and Stuck, anytime touchdowns, and more on the podcast feed next week. Thank you for listening. Good luck with all your bets, and let's enter Week 18 with motivation.